Hi, Rick. How are you doing?
Good, yourself?
I'm good. Welcome. I'm excited. We're having our first ever video chat.
Yes, this is exciting.
It is.
Haven't done this before, so this is going to be interesting.
Me too. So it's going to be very interesting. Technology appears to be doing what it's supposed to. So this is my first time ever running a Zoom meeting. I'm a little bit behind the times, so this is kind of new, but we can fake our way through it, I'm sure.
Perfect.
Um, Anyways, on to the things that are exciting versus technology. You, this is Rick, everybody. I'm Ashley. I'm old news over here. But this is a friend, a colleague of mine. His name is Rick Van Buzicom. And Rick, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, I look at people and I love enjoy seeing people grow and experience themselves for who they're really supposed to be. And it's really neat to see how so many people, when they come in or when I meet with them, they come in and everybody carries baggage. Ashley, you carry baggage, I carry baggage. We all carry all these beliefs and all these stresses and all these fears and everything. Everybody does. But a lot of times we don't know how to get rid of them or what to do with them.
Mhm.
So what I do is I tune into your energetic side or what we call your higher self, and I relay messages and I bring in answers for people to allow them to learn the truth about themselves, who they really are, and how beautiful people are and wonderful, and how much more they can be in their own lives. So
Excellent.
that's a quick version of it.
Awesome. Perfect. I thank you for the synopsis. We are going to dig in hopefully a little bit more on that. What is this called, Rick? So when you tune into the higher self, and Rick has done this for me, it's amazing. I will share a little bit about my session with him. But what is it called? What is the name of this? Like the healing that I do here in the Bunkie is called Reiki. What is the title of what it is that you're doing?
Yeah, so I learned this quite a few years ago, and the guy that taught it, he wrote a book, The All Knowing Diary. And it's exactly what it is. It's just tuning into higher self. It is experiencing the true self and getting rid of limiting beliefs. And that is the biggest thing about it. And it's all energy work, but there's no real name for it because it just flows with whatever that person needs. So it's some people need help or want guidance in fitness, or some people want guidance or healing in financial or health or anything, right?
Mhm.
So virtually there's no real name for it.
Okay.
It's a beautiful, just an exchange of energy between people and between people for themselves, because going in and connecting to somebody's higher self is so beautiful and it's amazing because the things that you can see, and it's just the energy that flows. And I mean, sometimes I get goosebumps all over my body when answers come in for people, and it's just amazing. And it's like, oh, this is what's for you. And it's just like, and they go, whoa, what is that? Like, how did you know that, right?
Right.
So um, there's no real name for it. It's
Okay.
just kind of what how it goes.
No, and so you've told me, Rick, that you've all throughout your childhood, all throughout your adult life, you've known that you have a gift.
Yep.
And many people, many healers, they say that there's kind of a knowingness there.
Hmm.
So you've had that your whole life, but there was a specific training for what you do. And that was in Australia, correct?
Yep. Yep. I took it in Australia, and that was with Daniel Reconciler, and that's um, again, it really didn't have a name other than the all-knowing, like
Okay.
becoming all-knowing in what you know and being able to tap into that energy.
Mhm.
right? And that's why he called his book The All-Knowing Diary, and The Mind Lies was his second book. And it just goes into all the lies and everything that people get into, right?
Mhm.
And it's really hard to put a name to it because it covers such a vast. So, I mean, you can call it universal intelligence, which is another name that they put on it as well, right?
Mhm.
And it's tapping into everything, like all energy, no matter what it is, where it is, when it is, and just being able to draw on that. So, yeah, universal intelligence sounds about right.
Perfect. Okay. Um, I understand that difficulty of trying to put words, trying to put a concept to something that doesn't have words. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to wrap words around what it is that you do is like taking a picture of a sunset and saying it is the sunset
Yeah,
when you're actually looking at the sunset and you can look at that picture you've taken and you're like, this picture doesn't even do it justice. It doesn't even touch it. It doesn't even, you have to be here. You have to see it. You have to feel it. That's how you get into a sunset. It's not by looking at that photo on your phone of that same sunset.
that's correct.
And so I understand that I'm trying to get you to conceptualize. I'm trying to get you to put words, but I understand as somebody who has been in the chair across from you that there are not words to properly conceptualize what actually transpires between you and the client.
Yep.
Um, because, and similar to Reiki, it is literally so different for every single person because of the things that they are showing up with, the things that they are to learn, the lessons, their higher self is different, right? So all of those little tidbits are hard to just pack into a neat little paragraph and say, well, this is what it is.
Yep.
So
No,
I,
that's absolutely right. And that's one of the reasons they call it universal intelligence. Um, and everybody does everything a little bit different,
Mhm.
right? Everybody interprets things different. Everybody takes things in different. So it's an interesting and amazing thing that can happen. And everybody gets different answers, which is the most amazing thing.
Mhm.
And it's so much fun because I mean, I've had I've had clients in the past that have come to me afterward and said, "You've done for me more for me in an hour session than I have ever had in 10 years of therapy." And
Mhm.
it's and that's an amazing thing, an amazing thing for them because it gives them that boost and gives them that drive to move forward. And it's just I don't even know how to describe it. It's just amazing.
It's clarity, right? It's clarity on whatever's showing up that seems out of reach. When
Yep.
you, for me, I know that when I ask, I'm like, what's my higher self say about this? And I hear the answer and it's like, oh, yes, I knew that, but it's that there's a really big clarity, um, almost a sense of relief of just, I know where I'm headed. I know what I'm doing. Um, and sometimes it's confirmation and validation, and sometimes it's a slap in the face, and sometimes it's um, nothing. Sometimes you have to, she has to make you figure it out on your own. Um, at least
And that does
that's my
happen.
higher self. She's a bit of a trickster sometimes, but um, that's
It,
something that I find very powerful. And you probably see that a lot with clients who show up. They tell me what I'm supposed to do, right? And that's when we're in that place of not knowing and being able to reach that divine place and ask those questions. It's pretty powerful.
yeah. And that's the one thing I really like about it because it's a lot of people come and say, "What do I do? Like, give me an answer
Mhm.
so that I can do it to the letter." Right.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it's, you find out as you go through a session, you're not looking for an answer. You're just looking for a direction.
Mm.
because we take so many different paths in our lives. You can be going down this path or that path or this path, and it's like, which way do I go? Right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that always becomes very, very hard for people to start making all those decisions. And it's like
Mhm.
you get all these clouds because this person said you can't do this in your life, and this person said you can't do that. And when you were 5 years old, your mother told you you couldn't fly. Not saying that you can. I'm just a metaphor. So you just kind of you take all those beliefs in as you're growing up, and then as you're going through life, all of a sudden you're sitting there going, well, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do this. And they just build. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know which way to turn.
Mhm.
And it's okay. So let's get rid of all that ego and all that stuff that's piled on top of you, and let's see if we can find you an answer that allows you to take a look at it yourself. And then once you get that clarity, that opens up another whole window and another whole space for you to be able to move into. And that's the most beautiful thing about it, because it's um, I'm providing a conduit of information to allow people to find their own truth in who
Mhm.
they are.
Mhm.
And that is the most beautiful thing, because truths come through with an amazing energy. Like, it just puts goosebumps all over your body, and it just kind of flows from your head and goes down through your feet, and it's like you're sitting there, and it's just like, wow, that was amazing. I just All that stuff that I had thought I had to do all my life has now just disappeared, and I can actually go do what I want to do, you
Yeah,
know? And
for sure.
that's an amazing thing.
Absolutely. And so when we talk about the higher self, for
Mhm.
those who have never heard or know what that is, can you break that down just a little brief kind of what is the higher self?
Well, your higher self it's you, your higher being in energy form. So, but when you're out and about one day and it's all of a sudden, I got to turn left here. And you turn left, and then you find out that there was an accident down the road, right where you were going to be. Or it's just stop for a minute and look around, and all of a sudden somebody comes up and you start chatting with them and you meet the most amazing person in the world. It's those little bits of clarity is your higher self coming through and giving you little bits of information. So your higher self is the best version of you, the highest, purest energy of who you are. And we always, ego likes to come in, and it's like, let's make a little battle here every time you're, should I have that hot chocolate, or should I have that nice glass of water over there? It's and you have that battle inside, and that's the ego going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When if you can stop and listen to that really quiet voice just for 1 second, it'll just tell you to go to whichever one is right for you at that time.
Mhm.
And that's your higher self. Your higher self is that quiet voice that's there for you all the time, and is always going to give you the answers. But you have to listen and pay attention. And a lot of times we get into that battle of making decisions, and our minds just go wander all over the place and completely try to confuse things for us as we're trying to make our decisions. So your higher self is a lot of everybody calls it something different. It could be your spirit side. It could be what we call the higher self. It could
Mhm.
be your God energy. It all depends on where you come from. But ultimately, it's you. It's your best version, your most purest version of you.
I like
So,
to think of it as I like the word divine. So
hmm
the divine side of I believe that we're all here for a human experience, but we are divine as well as human. And so that divine place, when you talk about that intuition of which one, not you should have that, you shouldn't have that, that'll be healthy. Oh, this is better for you. Oh, but I really want to, oh, that's all ego, right?
hmm
And if we just set this ego completely aside and just tune in, Oh, it's this one that I actually want. When I take away the bad or the good or the shoulds or the shouldn'ts or the core beliefs about, oh, bad people eat chocolate and you're right, like all of the things that come through when we
Yep.
tune into just that intuitive place. And like you said, when you peel off the layers of ego, core beliefs, junk that over the course of time we pile on,
Mhm.
that's what we're getting to, is that intuitive place, that all knowing, that, and many of us have difficulty doing that regularly and tuning in and really just being within ourselves. And so that's where I think it's really beautiful that you have this gift to not only do it within yourself, but also um, provide that place and that space where you can do that for other people.
Yeah, and I love doing it. And the thing that I find most amazing, as you know, it everybody has this capability.
Mhm.
Everybody has this power within themselves to find these answers and look for these answers. And the more and more and more you listen and you pay attention and you go into a space, you can find those answers and you can learn it.
Yeah.
And that's the most amazing thing. And there's so many different. Some people have to work really, really, really hard to get it,
Mhm.
and it's just how it's meant to be for you. And for some people, it comes easy, and that always frustrates different people. But it's the truth, right? And
Yeah.
it's and everybody is here to help each other, and that's the one thing that I find. Everybody is not everybody, but people get caught up in their lives. We get caught up doing everything that we want to do, and sometimes we forget about that neighbor, or we forget about that person across the road or down the road that might need a little bit of help with something, right? And that's why we're here. We're here to work together. We're here to be a unified group of people that are learning and discovering who we are and becoming greater people every day of our lives.
And that starts with the self.
That's right.
And that's where tuning in and um, learning deeply and being a part of um, that journey within yourself versus outside of yourself is um, kind of that beginning place, right?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Awesome.
yeah.
Perfect. So Rick and I met how many hours ago? 30?
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe 40 hours ago. We joke about this because some of the conversations that we've since had, it seems like lifetimes. And um, so we have a little giggle about that every once in a while, how many hours we've known each other. But Rick's very first Reiki treatment here, as soon as I laid my hands on him, I knew he was a healer. And so after the treatment, he noticed, he said, "Do you know that you were quivering? Like your hands were shaking?" And I was like, "I always get really nervous when I'm working on another healer for the first time." And he kind of looked at me and I said, "You know, you're a healer, right?" And he said, "Oh, yeah." And so it was really that kind of neat first connection of, I didn't know what he did at that point. I got my very first treatment from him almost as he was walking out the door saying, "You need to do this, you need to do this, your higher self is saying this." Um, and that was really interesting and beautiful that that connection began. But that's how I met Rick, is he came here for a Reiki treatment, and um, now we flip flop. He does a treatment on me, I do a treatment on him, and it works out really beautifully because my higher self has a lot to say, if you can imagine.
Yeah, she talks about as much as you do.
I believe it. I believe it.
And
And so, Rick, is there anything, is it possible to tune in right now?
yes, like anywhere you are in the world or with anybody, knowing somebody's name or first and last name
Okay.
is all I really need. And it's just it the amazing thing about energy is there's no delay. There's no time that's missed there.
Okay.
Um, I I've tuned in with people in Australia, over in Europe, um, in the United States, like all over the world, and you can tap into people and have that phone
Mhm.
conversation and just sit there, because it doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. I mean, I've done it in a restaurant. I get it all the time when I'm
Mhm.
out and about with people. Depending, if they ask me a question, it's like there's the information and it just starts to flow. So once somebody asks for me to take a look, then that opens up that gateway, that opens up that
Mhm.
allowing of me to take a look and see
Right.
what that person needs.
Right.
So it can be done anywhere. it's it's quite amazing that way.
Okay. Can you share about, you were telling me there was, and I don't want to break any kind of confidentiality, but there was somebody you were on the phone with and you literally virtually, like just out of body, went into his home. Can you share that? Can you share that with us a little bit? Or is
Yeah, so
that
he was an amazing man, and we still touch base every once in a while. But um, one day we like to fool around and just see what we can do and how we can move our energies, because he does the same thing as what I do. And one of the things that we ended up doing was, I said, hey, like, give me a second there. So I said, I'm going to come to your house. So I'm here. He was pretty much the other side of the world. And we just kind of sat there. I went into a meditating, and I projected into his house. And he's like, okay, what do you see? What do you see? So I'm like, okay. So I explained. I said, well, it's an open concept house. I said, like, it almost looks like it's open on both sides. He says, well, that's amazing, because we have sliding glass doors all the way up and down each side of the house. So I was like, okay, okay. And then he goes on, he says, all right, what else do you see? And I said, well, your kitchen is here and your couch is here and you're sitting on your couch and you're facing this way. And so he's like, wow, this is fun. So we keep on going. And I'm like, okay, we got to try something, because we're here now, so we might as well. So I said, I'm going to put my hand on your left shoulder. And he goes, all right. So I put my hand on his left shoulder. I just stood there and put it down. And he says, oh, my shoulder just went warm. So, and it was just that really neat that you can project that, you can project that energy, and you can see that, right? And it was just amazing. Like, we were
and you're
both just
literally
laughing.
like Australia and Canada. Like you're there.
Exactly. Yep. So, and it's just like, because we both were tuned in and we were allowing our energies to be shared that way, allowed us to have that connection, be able to be in that space with each other, which made it just amazing and so much fun, because it was just like
Mhm.
we were laughing. Oh man, it was so much. It was pretty funny.
That's
So
really, but that's like to me, that's so fascinating that with your own energy that you can harness that.
mm,
Um, and the way that the things that you can go beyond and the things that you can see and pull out for other people
yeah.
um, is really like
Well,
mind
it's
blowing.
just it's all the information that anybody would ever want to know. You think
Mhm.
the internet is big? Like, you get into anything like the Akashic records, or you get into any sort of even your own libraries that you have energetically, are just vast and amazing, just amazing at how much stuff is there. And I can't even describe it. And sometimes, like, even looking at the colors, and I mean, I've been in places for myself. When I go into my own space, I like to go. I have a nice spot that is for healing, and it's something that always comes up, and it's like, go sit in this river, and it's just a river of energy, and it's just like, it's pink and blue, and it just kind of flows and cruises, and you just slide down into it and you sink into it, and all of a sudden, all that stress and all that, everything that you have, all of a sudden disappears.
Mhm.
And it's like, and then your body just starts to heal. And I don't even know how to describe it sometimes. It's just,
And does that come through in some of the sessions that you do? I know there was a couple of brief meditations when we've done sessions that you have taken me through that are similar, not exactly the same, but does that shine through a lot in what it is that you do, or not as,
that
or is
all
that more
depends
of what
on,
you like to do for your own kind of?
it happens for different people. So everybody is a little bit different. So not everybody is quite ready for that, to be able to visualize that and come into that space.
Right.
So depending on where somebody's at, it all depends. Your higher self is only going to give you what you're ready for,
Yeah.
right? And uh, for me, I'm the kind of person that is like, hit me as hard as you can because I want all that information. I want it all.
I
I
know.
just I just want everything, right? So when people work on me or do sessions on me, that's what I'm looking for. I want you to go as deep as you can,
Mhm.
right? But still, even with that, my higher self is not going to push me past what I'm ready for. So I'm open. I'm very aware of what's happening and what's going on, but still gives me pieces enough that I can piece it together and allow it to flow. Because if you get too much all at once, it's like, oh, this is too much. I can't take it all, right?
You can't process it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's what it is. It's a lot of information, and the the conscious mind has a hard time sometimes allowing some of that information in.
Right.
So by giving it to you in pieces, your higher self allows you to grow, I would say, 100 times faster than if they just let it all drop on you all at once,
For sure. I
right?
believe that.
Because otherwise you're sitting there, you're unpacking for such a long time that you're like, okay, where do I begin with this?
Where do you be? It's overwhelming, right? It's too
Yeah,
much, and you're going to miss pieces of it.
that's right.
It's right. And so that's something that I find with Reiki as well, is your soul is only going to unload what your soul is meant to unload when you're here. And that's
Hmm.
where sessions can look different one session to the next, because there's different things to unpack, there's different things to heal, there's different things that are ready to release that weren't before, right? And so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, you got to think about it like, let's say you had, oh, Jenga's an amazing. So Jenga, if you just pull the bottom blocks out all at once, it's all going to topple over. In some cases, yes, you need to do that depending on if you want to go deep, and you just got to topple it over. But it's like all those beliefs, you want to get rid of them, but if you take too much at once, it's going to fall over, and then you have to pick yourself back up, right? And you don't want to do that, because you're not coming to me to fall over. You're coming to be lifted up and to gain more knowledge about yourself, right? And and
And
that's kind of an analogy of it.
and like Jenga, right? Where do you put the piece? That
Yeah.
that broken piece, right? If you say that that piece that you take out is kind of broken or needs healing, it goes on top.
Yep.
Literally, right?
Yep.
Closer to your ascension. That
Hmm.
divine, it takes that thing that was broken or needed healing or clarification or whatever, and it transcends it. It
Yep.
turns it into something of the highness.
Yep. And a really amazing thing that we do sometimes, depending on what's happening, like going into people's DNA and being able to start restructuring and working on, like, from a health side of things, being able to work on people. Um, when you go into their DNA, you can see the different things that are collapsed. And for me, a lot of times they show up like a Greek, um, what do you call it? Temple, with the white pillars, and it's holding the roof up, right? And sometimes when I look and I look for somebody, and it's like, okay, you know, there a couple of pillars might be up, and some of them are collapsed, and it's then when you're looking at it, you're going, okay, what energy do they need there to start to move forward in their life? And
This
then
is it.
bringing that energy in and filling that space and just surrounding it and start to build up that energy inside. And it's the little things, right? Like the little tiny things in your life that are going to start to change. Like,
Mhm.
well, from a health perspective, you know, oh, I don't feel so bad anymore. Like my shoulder isn't hurting as much, and you
Mhm.
know, things like that. So that is, I enjoy doing that as well, and it's a lot of fun.
I love that you just mentioned pillars. So Rick and I have not talked about the pillars, but this is something that I'm really focusing on this year. But the pillars of health, that mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, all four of those. So I thought, as soon as you said pillars, I was like, yeah, I completely agree. I think that's really, um, really neat. And Rick has looked at my DNA. There was something, I don't remember what it was exactly, but literally pulled it right up and was like, oh, right here, and could clear that. So that was really impactful. Is it possible, Rick, and I'm feeling a little nervous asking you this, for you to tune in and see what my higher self has to say? This is very nerve-wracking for me, but let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. You keep talking for a minute, and then
Okay,
I'm going to take a quick look.
he's going to take a quick look. All right, so Rick is going to keep looking, and I'm going to try and tell you some bad jokes. Not actually. So what he's doing is typically what happens here in the bunkie, and he often kind of sits across from me, and you just see him go into not a trance, but his eyes start to shift back and forth, like he's looking at or reading something, and that's him kind of shifting out of the physical awareness of what we are and what we're doing into that higher self, energy.
Yeah. So what I see coming through for her right now is like she's at a fork in the road in her life, right? She has to make a decision on which way she wants to go. And
This
she
girl.
knows that. You got her. So like, I mean, it's as long as you're okay with it, like as you as she's progressing through her life, her business and what she's doing is going to grow, which means that other things in her life are going to have to slow down, right? And taking that and going, okay, I'm ready to start putting more of my energy into the business and go in that direction. So, I mean, both paths are going to give you, how do you put it? You're going to come out in a wonderful way. Both paths are good, but the path of pursuing service to others and helping others is going to make her grow much faster and in a better way, right?
Mhm.
And that's the thing, by moving in that direction, sometimes it's not easy because you have to give up things in your life,
Mhm.
certain things, and 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 move that way, which means more of her time than what she now spends doing it as it is. And I mean, she has a wonderful balance in her life of how much time she spends there, but saying she needs to do, higher self says, another 4 hours a week is what she has to do on top of what she's doing now. So so how that comes through for me, and to explain it a little bit, is I get images, I get pictures, I get words, I get feelings, and it's going, okay, I usually ask her higher self to come and say, okay, what does she need, and what is the one thing that she has to look at right now? And all of a sudden a picture of two golden roads are going to show up. So when I see two golden roads, that means whichever one she chooses is going to be good, right? but one golden road seems to be a little longer than the other one, and that's the one going to the right. Generally, anything on the right-hand side means that's the ultimate path, the best path, right? And then you move on from there, and then all of a sudden she'll say, okay, what does she need to do? She needs to spend more time. So, okay, and how much more time? And then all of a sudden the number will come in and it'll be like 4. I'll get an image of a 4, or, you know, anything like that, or her higher self will hold up 4 fingers or whatever. It comes in so many different ways, but that's how that information comes in, and it's removing, because her ego can't get involved, because I'm pretty sure she's like, I gotta do more 4 more hours every week, right? But it's like, okay, I gotta do 1 more session every day, and it doesn't even have to be that. It's could be anything, right?
I feel that in my soul, that actually I know that that's true. I need to increase hours. The demand, yes, I agree.
So, but that's a really basic, simple, that's not going too deep, but just kind of scratching at some of the surface stuff, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So I don't want to make her cry.
Not on video. And so, Rick, can you see the higher self?
Yes, higher selves always come in differently. Sometimes it's just it's an energetic being. Sometimes they come as a fairy, or sometimes they show up as a little girl, or a man, like whoever I'm working with, they come in a little different.
Okay.
And it's more, it's kind of neat to see, because it's the higher self comes in a way that relates to the person I'm working with.
Right.
So then that way it's a little easier for them to receive that information. And then if I decide to, I can go deeper, and I can go, okay, I want to see what's behind the image that I'm being shown now. And when I do that and I get into that space, now you get into images of energy. Sometimes it can be a blue orb of energy, or it can be, sometimes it's a golden angel and with amazing wings, and it's just bringing that energy forward. So they show themselves in different ways, and there's the odd time, I'll get one that is like, I'm not ready to talk to you yet, right? Then it's like, okay, hold off. And then all of a sudden, because I've had sessions in the past where it's like, usually, I'll use Ashley as a prime example. 2 weeks before I did her first session, her higher self came to me and wouldn't stop talking. And it was just like lots and lots and lots of information. And it was like, okay, we got to hold off on this until we get to our first session. And she was like, okay. So she went away. And then as soon as I was driving down to see Ashley and do the first session, it was like she all of a sudden started talking again. And it's like, we're almost there. So, and then there's other people that their higher self is like, when we get there, I will give you what you need to know. And that's it. Blank, quiet. And then once we get talking and we get into it, the higher self starts giving just enough information, right? So it's funny. I've done sessions in the past where I'm driving and all of a sudden I get this gut-wrenching pain or whatever, and I'm going, what in the world is this? Oh, they're nervous. And it's like, oh, okay, I can feel that. And then, you take that energy and you put it somewhere. And I'd love to put it in the sun, because the sun is a beautiful energy. And you take that and you put it in the sun, and then, you get there and they're like, I'm really nervous. I'm like, well, okay, yeah, I can feel that. And we work on it and we go from there. Right. And, yeah, so
okay,
a little off topic there, but
that's why we're doing this. It's candid, it's authentic, it's the real deal. And so, Rick, one of the things that I found really interesting, just from like an information kind of standpoint, was that you could read the color of my aura.
Mm.
And you mentioned that you can see everybody's aura. It's like a field, and you can just see all these different colors. And when people come to you, you can tell them what their aura color is.
Yeah, and some people are like everybody obviously has a different color. It's just more or less it just comes up like an image, and it's when I tune in. A lot of times I bring two figures forward. I bring the who you are now,
Mhm.
and I bring the higher self of who you are truly inside. And then asking what somebody's aura looks like, it just pops up, and it's like, okay, now I find that sometimes people's auras change colors, and it just
Okay.
all depends on where they are in life,
And that makes sense.
and how their energy's growing, or you
Mhm.
know, your aura may change color because you're sad, or and it's just, I don't know how else to describe it. It's just neat to see. It's neat to bring
And,
that forward.
and so you can see an aura color in the moment that it is there.
Yep.
And it can shift or change based on the energy that comes in with whoever you're reading.
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
So the other thing, like talking about auras, so your aura is like a big energy field that's around you that protects you. And a lot of people's auras, and I know mine sometimes deflates, and I mean, you have to build it back up and fill it back up. And if you don't take that time to do that, you can feel it. You can feel like, I kind of feel kind of blah, right? Um, but when your energy field gets low or gets cracks in it or holes in it, that gives an opening for energies to get in there. So, as much as we love all the loved ones around us all the time, um, there are good and bad energies, and you can have, like, let's say your children are bothering you, or not bothering you. What's the right word there? You know, some days with your kids, all of a sudden it's like,
My
okay,
kids
I'm
bother
done.
me.
I'm done. I'm done. Oh, there you go. So,
They can
but
bother me. They can
yeah,
irritate me. They can drive me up a wall.
that's
And
right.
you have said this to me, is that they, if I don't fill that up,
Yep.
they're draining out my energy. And
Yep.
I find that when I'm aware of it, I'm like, oh, I can keep my energy close and strong,
Hmm.
and they can behave exactly the way they want to, and it doesn't deplete me.
That's
As
right.
soon as I get into that, like, oh, I wish it was different. Why aren't you doing this? Why is my house a disaster? Go to bed, right? Like,
Yep.
and I can feel my energy going out,
That's
and
right.
I'm like, whoa, that's me giving it, or that's them taking it, and I
Yep.
need to come back.
Yep. And you don't have to, like, that's the thing about energy, is you don't have to give up your energy to somebody,
Mhm.
because the universe is full of energy. It's full of beautiful, loving energy. And so many people, I find, they allow their energy and they try to give their energy away,
Mhm.
right? Instead of keeping their energy and allowing that energy to flow through them instead of coming from them.
Right,
And people get depleted that way. And
for sure.
helping people build that up and start closing those things and finding those cracks and going, okay, you got a something going on here, right? This is what's happening. Then it could be anything. It could be, um, let's say a friend of yours is constantly calling you, and it's just like you're getting annoyed by it, and you're like, okay, well, they're my best friends, so why am I getting annoyed by this energy? Because you're allowing them to take energy from you,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And just by closing up those little gaps and everything in our energy fields, we can regain and strengthen ourselves to be able to work through all the things we need to in our life. So
Okay.
I don't know if I explained that correctly, but that's.
I understand that when we can step back from it, right?
Hmm.
When our energy's not in it, when we're not embedded in it,
Yep.
engaged in it, that phone call doesn't become a personal thing. It
Yep.
doesn't suck energy from us. It's like, oh, I can choose to take that phone call, or I can choose not to take that phone call.
Yep.
Either way, I'm choosing to, when I get into there, I'm remaining me and not kind of swooping
Yep.
in. And
Yeah.
that's what I find my kids, that's one thing that I'm like, oh, okay, pull back. And then as soon as I do that, I'm like, oh, we're good again.
Yep. And that's an amazing thing to do. And the other thing is, I find people will say something to you, and um, let's say you're talking to somebody and they say something not very nice. So that comes with what we call darts. It's like a dart that's being thrown at you,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of sticks in your body, and
Mm-hmm.
it irritates and frustrates. It's like, let's say you have a splinter and it gets infected, right? That is no different than somebody who you allow that energy into your field.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like to do, and I love to do, is I'll scan people's bodies,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll take a look and I'll say, okay, you have what we call attachments, or a dart or whatever in this area. What is it? Okay, this is what it is. This is what's going on. This is why it's happening. And then by bringing that truth in, people go, oh, okay, well, that really makes sense.
Yeah.
And then once that truth comes in, there's no room for that anymore. So then I can remove it. And then I love to just fill it up with a beautiful white light and cover it in gold, you know, just two very pure energies,
Mm-hmm.
and just let that go. And then, you know, and we let that in all the time. And
Right.
it's just how we are, right? And it's pretty neat to do.
Well, this has been wonderful. I see a lot of parallels with what you do and with what I do. And so I love that we've linked up. And Rick and I have done one and are planning to do more if anybody is interested, dual sessions. So we had a really incredible, really powerful session. The client who was here, she still refers to it as a miracle. She's like, that's all I can say. That's how I explain it. And so when Rick and I work together, he very much reads and brings in that higher self while I do the hands-on healing. And so I'm excited to introduce Rick and share some of his talents and abilities and gifts in this space. But also Rick is doing virtual clients as well. So that's a possibility depending on where you're located or your comfort level, considering the climate. That's a possibility as well. And hopefully we are planning, we don't have a date nailed down yet, but we are hoping to have Rick here at the Bunkie and kind of doing sessions, possibly a select date, and kind of just doing kind of like you sign up for a slot kind of thing. But also he is willing and available to be here at the Bunkie if you want to work with just him one-on-one as well. So kind of lots of options, but Rick is kind of new to the team, and I'm excited to have him and I link arms and kind of share this space and work together, as well as kind of doing our own thing that is our specialties as well. So
I look forward to it.
yeah. Do you have any last tidbits, last things that you want to end with, Rick, for our video chat here?
I think the biggest thing that I have found has made a huge difference in my life is learning to love yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and taking that 5 minutes or even 2 minutes or whatever, and just sitting there and closing your eyes and just letting love, just an actual love, come in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it gives you a peace, and it gives you a joy and a happiness. And I love to do it because it brings in so much good energy and rejuvenates you when you can take that few minutes and just let that flow in, because we tend to not always love ourselves very much. So it's like, okay, taking that few minutes and starting to learn to love yourself.
I love that. I am somebody who thinks I love myself, but the way that you described that, that's a very tangible thing to do versus just
Yep.
saying, well, we should all just love ourselves. It's like, okay, and
Yep.
now what? So you've given us the now what, which is really awesome. So thank you. I'm going to do that today when I go to bed. Just lay there and allow that in and consciously pull it in, right? So
Yep.
thank you.
Because you're letting everything else go and you're going, you know what? I'm going to bring an actual love for myself.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
love transmutes, right? So
Yep.
the stress, the worry, the pain, the whatever that is sitting there from the day or the month or the year, that love will start to transmute it and turn it into love, which is
That's right.
powerful.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Well,
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Rick. I will see you soon, I'm sure. But it's been a pleasure having you on the call, and I look forward to kind of moving forward with you. So thanks very much.
I look forward to it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Always is. I just,
Oh,
I don't know how to describe how much fun I have when I talk with everybody.
well, there's more coming your way, my friend. So
Oh,
I look forward to the journey ahead. Thanks,
good.
Rick.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.